Salutations, fellow aviators! I am the notorious and extraordinarily handsome Swallow, and this is the Icarus update. That's right, dear Bubbles has decided to let me continue to ramble on and on about the new toys and features due in the next patch. Isn't he a darling? Getting straight to it. We'll be covering the changes due to Guns of Icarus Online with the next patch, 1.3.4. Following a talk with Kivias, I have been informed that each of these three numbers means something very important. I can't remember what though. Must have slipped my mind. Tragic. Moving on. Coming up, scrambling, spawns, signals, seeing sailors stationed on separate ships and standing strong when the competition ceases. Yeah, that's a lot to get through. Let's get started. It has been a common lament of captains and crew alike that the respawn system, the system that miraculously brings them back to life, remember, trust aviators to complain about something like that, has been depositing them in rather unfavourable situations on occasion. It has to be said, being obliterated by a galleon's Hwacha storm only to reassemble directly in their firing line for a second helping is not the most pleasant of experiences. From 1.3.4 onwards, however, captains will have the ability to select the site of their vessel's divine resurrection. Now, if your ship is obliterated mere milliseconds after it is released back into the skies, you have only yourself to blame. Hurrah! Oh, and in case you were wondering, the crew will be able to see what their captain is planning to do and adjust their communication strategy accordingly. Good luck out there. Those amongst you lucky enough to have been playing for more than a few months may remember the malicious pleasure of staring into an opposing avatar's cold, emotionless eyes as their ships crumble around them. But for those of you unfamiliar with this uncharacteristically brutal sentiment, I shall explain. A long time ago, before the Great Flood was visited upon us by the might of TGS, now known as Polaris, not affiliated with our Russians, it was possible to see other players aboard distant ships. This feature was a bit resource heavy for the servers to handle at the time and was sadly removed. However, with 1.3.4 you will once again be able to drink in the sight of opponents and allies alike panicking aboard their airborne infernos. That's right, with the next patch you will once again be able to see players aboard other ships. I personally can't wait. Mere words don't do the sight of an opposing engineer leaping from his crumbling squid in defiance to the bellowing of his commander justice. It is something that has to be seen to be shared. Anyone who has ever faced a team composed entirely out of players wearing a matching tag will also have to admit to a certain degree of frustration which typically accompanies the rather deep, probing sensation one experiences about the rear muscles during and shortly after that particular match. Indeed, that frustration has led to more than a few rage quits from yours truly, which is hardly the way the game is supposed to be played. In order to alleviate a little of the aforementioned probing, Muse are introducing a brand new scramble feature which will automatically, scramble the teams, forcibly breaking up those winning combos to let us little guys stand a fighting chance when the missiles start flying and the spanners start falling. Of course, while this may prove to be an effective way to mitigate the damage the pub stomping can cause, there is still a universal truth in place. If Meta 5 is piloting a ship, that team will lose. Some things are immutable. While we're here, I should also mention that there will be a new system in place come patch time that will allow individual players, as well as entire crews of players, to request slot swaps. This will allow ships to switch sides and individual players to trade positions without having to resort to dancing between spectator slots. This should prove especially useful for casters and staff during competitive matches too, when all the spectator slots are full. But I somehow doubt you care too much about that. Still, the option will be there. Thank you, Muse. In keeping with Muse's goal of improving both the visual experience and user interface of Guns of Icarus Online, the victory, or defeat, screen is getting a change. Rather than merely displaying the tab scoreboard directly following the climax of a match, now players will be treated to a magnificent display of cool guy awesomeness from the winning team. Player avatars will be arranged aboard the decks of their victorious ships, draped in whatever finery and riches they deign to dress themselves in. Yet another incentive for players to toss aside their garish colourings and adopt a more sensible code of dress. And yet another chance that I fear will pass unnoticed amid a sea of bright pink corsets. May the skies have mercy on your souls. Finally, we come to a rather interesting addition. A brand new tool is coming that has suffered quite the delayed introduction. For those of you that have been eagerly awaiting its release, you may celebrate. For those of you that haven't, may I introduce the cutting edge in aviation support technology, the rangefinder. This handy little tool occupies a pilot slot and allows a savvy crewmate to provide his or her gunners with a target marker, a numerical distance display, and a lead crosshair. With the aid of the rangefinder, even a novice gunner can quickly determine the distance of an enemy vessel and fire with an unprecedented level of accuracy. Of course, your results may vary. You are not, for instance, likely to land much damage on a distant foe with a heavy carronade, no matter how good your spotter might be. Sorry about that. Well, that looks like all the time I have for now. Be sure to check out the full patch notes for more information on the topics covered here, as well as a whole host of other optimizations, bug fixes, and balance changes incoming with the 1.3.4 patch, including a brand new 4v4 map set in the scorching desert. The option to completely disable the profanity filter, hurrah, and perhaps most importantly of all, Christmas hats! They truly are the currency of happiness. That's all for this time though, so on behalf of myself, Swallow, and the Muse team, ho ho ho, bar humbug, and holiday cheer. I'll see you on the other side. Stay safe.